Welcome, everyone. The Center of Excellence in Smart Construction is pleased to present this virtual seminar, Embracing Digital Technologies for Efficient Contract Management in Construction Projects. My name is Dr. Wendu Oguda, and I'm the manager at the Center of Excellence in Smart Construction. Please note we are recording this webinar and all lines are muted. If you need help at any time, please send us a message via the Q&A chat box. Today's event will last up to 60 minutes. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the event. Simply type them into the Q&A chat box in the lower center of the screen, and then be sure to click the send button. The Center of Excellence in Smart Construction is committed to advancing industry-led innovations in the built environment that will revolutionize the way we develop, manage, and operate smarter cities. We partner with like-minded organizations and government entities to lead the transformation of the built environment and development of next generation of professionals for the benefit of the economy. The Center is a global hub for disruptive thinking, a platform for collaborative research, and a model for solutions development and stakeholder engagement. The Center's industry-led research and development has a focus on enabling technologies around three main themes: performance and productivity, sustainability, and well-being. The collaboration is intended to provide leadership in the future direction of the industry that will inform policy decision makers. We would like to acknowledge our 5 industry partners who have been integral to the development of the Center and their engagement with industry. We'd also like to acknowledge our ongoing relationships with our affiliates and also our ongoing relationships with our strategic alliances. It's now my pleasure to introduce our esteemed industry and academic experts. Professor Ernesto Damiani is a full professor at Università degli Studi di Milano in Italy. He's also the Senior Director of the Robotics and Intelligent Systems Institute and Director of Center for Cyber Physical Systems within Khalifa University in the UAE. Dr. Hai Chen Tan is an Associate Professor and Associate Director of Learning and Teaching at the School of Energy, Geoscience, Infrastructure and Society at Terratot University at the Malaysia campus. He delivers courses at both the undergraduate and postgraduate levels and supervises PhD students. His research interests cover BIM, knowledge management, sustainability, construction informatics, and other current issues related to construction project management. Ahmed Abu Alfa is an executive board member of the Digital Engineering Chapter of the Society of Engineers in the UAE. He's an advisory board member of the Ministry of Environment and Infrastructure in the UAE and an executive board member at CAN-BIM, Data and Digitalization Think Tank. Dr. Marwan Abu Ebaid is a digital transformation lead for Turner Construction International Middle East. Marwan has 20 years of experience in construction project management and building information modeling, where he has worked in a variety of notable landmark projects of various kinds and use. So to set the scene for this evening's webinar, one of the key areas that have been a priority in the construction industry's change agenda is contract management. In this digital transformation era, new technologies are increasingly recognized as efficient tools to facilitate contract administration and enhance contractual risk allocation and management. Blockchain and smart contracts are some of the concepts implemented by other industries for automated, transparent, and traceable management of contractual conditions and transactions. The webinar will highlight how construction can catch the trend and upgrade its contract management process through a proper deployment of digital technologies. There will be an opportunity for a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. But firstly, I would like to hand over to Dr. Hai Chen Tan, who presents his thoughts on this subject. Dr. Hai Chen Tan, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendu. All right, thank you very much for the introduction. In line with the theme today, I'm going to talk about a cloud-based contract administration system for the Malaysian PAM standard form of contract. Next slide, please. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Malaysian PAM standard form of contract that the system is developed for, it is the most popular contract in the private sector in Malaysia, especially for the building projects. It is also based on a version of JCT standard building contract, and architect is the contract administrator. And the system is actually the result of a 2-year-long research project funded by the Malaysian government through its Construction Industry Development Board and CRIM. And it is also a research collaboration with Professor Chime Anumba from the University of Florida in the US. There are in fact many issues faced by consortium companies with regard to contract administration. And these 3 are the main ones. The first, the staff lack of familiarity with the conditions of contract. For instance, the staff is not familiar, is not sure about the extent of the authority of the contract administrator under the contract, or the staff is not sure how to determine the deadlines for various purposes under the contract, or the staff is not sure about the procedures for dealing with claims and other matters under the contract. The consequences of this can be very, very serious in the sense that most of the contracts require strict adherence to the procedures as laid out in the conditions of the contract. Second, the lack of an efficient information system. Whenever there is a dispute, consortium company will rush, searching high and low for evidence and supporting information that will allow them to win the dispute. However, without an efficient information system, chances are it is very, very likely that the construction companies may find that the information or evidence that they are looking for is either incomplete, missing, or sometimes it has not been captured at all. So without an efficient information system, the companies can rest assured that chances are they will be at the losing end of the dispute. And these two problems are further aggravated by the high staff turnover in the construction industries, especially if the person who is going to leave the company is the one who is responsible for managing the claims or for contract administrations in the company. Next slide, please. The cloud-based system, the cloud-based contract administration system for PAM contract that we have developed is aimed to address the issues that we have identified. The system is cloud-based, which provides instant access to the users at any time and any place. What it takes is for the users to have a computing device with internet connection and compatible web browsers. And these days you are talking about almost any kind of web browsers. In other words, the users only need to have a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, iPad, and even a mobile phone with internet connections in order to use and access our system. That is all it takes. In addition to that, we have developed quite a number of features and functions to support and automate many tasks that conventionally fall under contract administration and are handled manually by the staff members. So we are of the opinion that if there is something that IT can do and do better than human being, we are not going to do it ourselves. It's better to be for the task to be handed over to the IT. And the aim is to reduce the workload of the staff and also to reduce human errors. In the next slide, I'm going to show you a long list of the features and functions of the system. So next slide, please. All right, so in this slide, we can see a long list of the functions of the cloud-based contract administration system. First of all, the system supports the issuance of the architect's instructions and the engineer's instructions through the platform. So what it means is the architect or engineers, they can simply just log into the system and then type in the necessary informations and attach the relevant documents, and straight away they can issue their instructions through the platform. And right away, the instructions issued by them will become visible to the contractors and other relevant parties. So this bypasses the need of having to post the architect's printed versions instructions through registered mail to other parties. This would have saved the parties and the project a lot of time. And upon receiving the architect's instruction and being able to have sight on the instructions through the system, then the other parties, especially the contractor, can respond to the architect's instructions, can request for further details from the architects through the system, can even challenge the architect's authority for issuing certain instructions through the system as well. The system also supports the contractors in the submissions and applications of different types of claims, such as the extension of time or EOT claims, the loss and or expense claims, and the interim claims. The contractors simply have to key in all the details, attach the necessary files, and then he can just click the submit button, and the claims will be kind of recorded in the system. Subsequently, the contract administrator and other consultants, they would be able to have sight on the claims submitted by the contractor. They can then process the claims. They can then take the necessary actions. They can then make the relevant and appropriate decisions as to what they are going to do with the claims on the quantums to be awarded to the contractors, so on and so forth. Other than that, the system also allowed the contractors to appeal against the decisions of the contract administrator to certain claims if he thinks that he deserves something better. And the systems has been designed to facilitate that. There's also a weather records module. The module is meant to record weather, of course, as that piece of information is sometimes relevant and then will be important to some of the the claims submitted. And last but not least, the last item in the list is the document management module. And then for this module, it allows the architect and other consultants to issue drawings and other documents to the contractor and others, or issue new versions of certain documents to supersede existing versions in the system. And all this would have been properly recorded in the system. There is also the RFI, or so-called request for information system, that allow contractor to raise the ticket, looking and requiring the consultants to get back to him with further details and for them to respond to as well. So these are the features of the system. Next slide, please. All right. The system also has built-in intelligence to help in tracking the deadlines for different purposes, and also to send out reminders to the users a couple of days ahead of the deadlines. That is configurable. All right, for instance, once the contractor has submitted his extension of time claim through the system, according to contract, the architect will be given 6 weeks to make a decision on whether or not he would like to accept or reject that particular extension of time claim. However, the 6 weeks kind of are given by under the contract does not include the gazetted public holidays in the state in which the project is located. So this means that there's, let's say, kind of there are a number of days of holiday that fall kind of within the durations of the 6 weeks. Then the architect would have a little bit more time for him to respond to the extension of time claim submitted by the contractor. So conventionally, this would have been calculated and determined manually by the user, especially the contract administrator. But through the system is smart enough to recognize this and will automatically determine the deadlines, take that into consideration, in a way save some troubles from the contract administrator and other users from having to do this kind of arithmetic, and also to prevent human mistakes as well. And there is also another form of built-in intelligence that is capable of guiding through the users on what to do next, or the next course of actions that they can take based on the reactions and actions that other party has taken through the system. All right, so this is a feature that is not commonly found in contract administration system. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you how this works. So next slide, please. And this is a screenshot of the architect's instructions that has been issued through the system. At the left-hand side, it covers and contains the details of the architect's instructions issued through the system. On top of it, there is the project title for which the AI is related to, and followed by the reference for the AI or reference for the architect's instructions. And right beneath it, there are the clauses that empower the issuance of the AI, which the architect has checked. These clauses are clauses 1.1 and 1.2. And there is also the architect's instruction that requires the contractor to do this and that. And at the bottom, there is the date on which the AI was issued, and also the identity of the architect who issued the AI. And the timestamp is captured from the server, so this prevents the information to be tampered with. At the right-hand side, there is this panel that we call it workflow. The workflow panel contains the guides for the users, and also will highlight the important deadlines for all the users. So the number of messages appearing on the outflow will depend on the actions and the reactions taken by different users in the system, and it might differ from time to time. So let's move on and look at the item number 3 there in the workflow. In the item number 3, it reads, the AI or the architect's instruction must be complied with by 30th of April 2020. So that deadline was determined and calculated automatically by the system. It also continues to say that otherwise, the employer may employ and pay other person to execute any work necessary to give effect to the AI. So next slide, please. Right, this is another screenshot. This is the screen capturing the extension of time claim submitted by the contractor. Right, at the left-hand side, it contains the details of the EOT claim submitted by the contractor, such as the reference, the date on which the extension of time has been submitted. That is 22nd of April. And right beneath it, there is the deadline determined by the system for the contractor to submit the final EOT claim. That is 21st of May 2020. And then if we were to compare the deadline with the actual date the contractor submitted it, we notice that actually the contractor has submitted the final claim well ahead of the actual deadline. And this is followed by the details of the claim and the number of extension of time claimed by the contractor, that is 18 days. At the right-hand side, there is again the workflow panel. And if you're observant, you might notice that right now there are 4 pieces of messages on the workflow panel. All right, so there are a number of deadlines, but if we were to move on to the bottom, all right, then there is this interesting message. The system trying to kind of to remind everyone that the architect is now in the position to decide to accept or reject the contractor's application for extension of time within 6 weeks. That is by 3rd of June 2020. And again, the calculation has excluded the gazetted public holidays in the state in which the project is located. Next slide, please. All right, as I said, the workflow will contain both the important deadlines and also the guides for the users. Okay, so you can see that there are 2 red boxes kind of on the screen. Right, these 2 red boxes contains the guide for the users. All right, let's look at the first red box on top. All right. It says it tries to remind the contractor and guide the contractor that the contractor can actually request the architect to extend the deadline for him to submit the extension of time claim. And then in case the contractor finds that he needs a little bit more time, because if we were to move our eyes just a little bit up the first red box, that is the message number 2, we notice that actually the deadline for the contractor to submit the final claim as determined by the system is 21st of May. So if this is not sufficient, then contractor can in fact request the architect to extend it. And this system is trying to remind the contractor and guide the contractor to, okay. And let's move on to the second red box. In the second red box, it says the system also tries to remind everyone, especially the architect, that the architect may, before 20th of May 2020, that is within 28 days from the date of submissions of this particular claim by the contractor, request the contractor to provide further particulars for the EOT claim. And the system generates kind of further details for the architect. That is, the architect can actually request further particulars from here. Here refers to the hyperlink, the text in blue within the second red box. So the architect can in fact just click on the hyperlink, and then they will open up another screen, another form. They will guide him through on how to fill in that particular form and asking for further details from the contractor, and contractor can respond to the architect's request from that screen. All right, so if the architect in this case has decided to request the contractor to provide further details and has submitted that particular request, then the message in the second box would have been reflected and changed accordingly. It will say that the architect has requested the contractor to provide further details on this particular day. And then it will further tell the contractor that, yeah, Mr. Contractor, you actually have to respond to the architect here by clicking another link, which we are not seeing right now. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so from so far, I believe that you can see that the system will be able to facilitate transparency in the operations of contract administration in typical construction projects. And basically, you can see from how the system works that everyone, all the users can see what each other have done. And then the form that they have filled in, the messages, the information that they have provided, and the various deadlines, and whether or not they have complied with the deadlines in discharging their duties. So this, in a way, motivates them to to discharge their duties professionally. And after looking at what each other have done, especially what they have done, then they would have very clear idea on whether or not there is any merit kind of or good ground and the chances for them to win over in a dispute. So altogether, this will lead to reduction in the number of disputes. And last but not least, the system is going to provide systematic document management and records management. In a way, the system can serve as a one-stop center for the information pertaining to contract administration, especially on claims within a project. So this means that all the information pertaining to contract administration and claims, the user will be able to obtain and to look for directly or indirectly through the system. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you kind of how this may happen. Next slide, please. Right, again, we're back to the screenshots of the page for people of an extension of time claim submitted by the contractor. But let's just focus on the workflow panel at the right-hand side. So as I mentioned earlier in the talk today, that the workflow will deliver and provide the guides for the users and also highlight important deadlines to the users. So in addition to that, the workflow can also serve and can also provide a complete history of everything that has happened that is pertaining to this particular extension of time claim. Then, for instance, what the different parties have done, what are the forms that they have filled in, what are the files that they have attached, how they have responded to each other, and whether or not they have complied with the actions that they have to take by certain deadlines. So let me take you through the messages over there one by one to give you a better clearer idea on what I'm talking about. So the message number one, the system has captured that the contractor has to give written notice to the architect his intention to claim for extension of time by this particular deadline, 20th of May in 2020. However, the system has also recorded that the written notice has been given by the contractor to the architect on 22nd of April by a certain time, which is a few days earlier than the deadline. And the system continues to remind everyone that the architect may reject or accept the notice. And let's move on to the second message over there. The system has also captured that the contractor has confirmed via the system that the date of the end of the cause of the delay is 23rd of April 2020. All right. If you were to click on the word confirm over there, which is a hyperlink, then the system will bring you and share and allow you to access the information of the confirmations that the contractor has entered into the system. And in this case, the deadline for the contractor to submit the final claim for EOT is 21st of May, right? So just make it clear. And the system also, at the bottom of the second message, capture that the contractor has in fact submitted the final claim on 22nd of April. And then for any user who are interested to access the details of the final claim submitted by the contractor, that is this particular final claim, the filer can just click on the submitted hyperlink and he will have access to the information. And on the third message, it captures that the architect may be for 20th of May request the contractor to provide further details. Right, but the architect hasn't done anything, hasn't requested further details, so kind of the message remains more or less the same. All right, so let's look at message number 4. It says that the architect to decide to accept or reject the contractor's application for extension of time within 6 weeks by 3rd of June. Let's say if the architect has rejected or accepted the contractor's application for EOT, then this message will have been updated accordingly to say that the architect has accepted, let's say architect has accepted the contractor's application for EOT. So this provides, I would say, a complete history of everyone's actions, right? Information provided in chronological order together with the relevant dates that they have performed those actions pertaining to this particular extension of time claim. So it serves as a very good source of information. and it serves as a very good source of information, also not only for recording purpose, but also for dealing with disputes. So I would say that this is kind of one of the important feature of this particular system. So I think that's all from me today about the system. So I'm going to hand it back to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the next step should be a panel, but we have a few questions in the chat that I think could be of interest immediately. There is one question that I think is important, which is how can I make sure that the information that the system is handling is actually complete? There will be, I mean, it's the richness of the information that the system captures. You have shown it to us. But there will be a lot of cases in which information will not be entirely available at the same time, or will be incomplete, need to be amended later. How do you deal with this type of information?
Actually, the system is designed to cater for a very specific type of contract, that is the PAM standard form of contract widely used in Malaysia. For some of the clauses within that particular standard form of contract, it does provide opportunities for different parties, be it the contract administrator or the contractors, to request for further details pertaining to the claims or other purposes. So for that, we are able to provide that function that is allowed the other parties to request for further details. And there is also a possibility, because we are talking about in the context of other standard forms of contract, that the contract might not facilitate that, which means that once it has been submitted, then of course, then it will be on the contract administrator to decide whether or not the fellow would like to request for further details from the contractor. If the fellow would like to make a decision based on the information that he received from the contractor, kind of without requesting for further details, then the fellow might have all the rights and all the power to do so. So it is very much dependent on the conditions of the contract.
Thank you very much for this clarification. And I think that I would like also to thank you for all the interesting aspects that you have highlighted during your presentation. So thank you very much for this presentation. I don't know if at the beginning my name was mentioned. I'm supposed I'm Ernesto Damiani from Khalifa University. So I took over now in asking you the questions, because I am supposed also to be the moderator of the panel that will come now in the program of this online webinar. So thank you very much, and I think that we can move on. So after this presentation, the discussion can sort of be widened up to a panel that will include participants that have been also already mentioned in the program. So I would like to welcome the panelists, just to verify that everybody is online. So we should have Ahmed Abu Alfa and Marwan Abu Edeid.
Hi, Professor.
Okay, hello. Glad to see you. So I don't want to try myself to give an introduction. Ahmed Abu Alfa is an executive board member at the Digital Engineering Chapter of SOE here in the United Arab Emirates. I would basically leave it to each of the panelists to do also a very short self-introduction. And I know that there are many interesting things that the panelists can say on the topic of this webinar, and specifically on the how can the information that is collected can be put to use, verified. So I see two aspects, and I would like the panelists to give us their view on those, but also on the other topics that they may have in mind. One aspect is intelligence, and the other aspect is trust. So we need the support needs to be able to provide both of those, valuable information and intelligence on one side, and the other one is enable trust into being a contractual support into the content. So I would like to start with Ahmed. If you wanted to do your first, we will do a first pass. And I would like to leave you the stand for your own self-introduction and for highlighting those aspects.
Thanks, Prof, for the introduction. My name is Ahmed Abu Alfa. Today, I'm representing Digital Engineering Chapter for Society of Engineers in UAE. I'm heading right now Digital Delivery and Business Intelligence for one of the largest projects in the world in Saudi, which is the Raya Gate. I'm also in the advisory board for Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure and UAE, and executive board member for CAMBIM Council in Canada for data and digitization. Today, I'll speak specifically about the intelligence in the contract management. So as Dr. Tan mentioned about the contract management and the contract life cycle management through a platform, I'll speak about the contract intelligence. Yes, it's a new terminology, but it's like an evolution of the contract management itself. I'll give a small example about the claims that happen always in our construction industry. Once we have a big issue, or let's say we need to claim a time, we need to claim a cost, all of the things. So the contract administrators start to shoot a lot of emails and invite a lot of meetings for the planner, for the cost manager, for the QS, and start to ask them about the information and about some history, about what happened, why this is like this, why this is like this. But we need to think more digitally and more efficient. How? Right now, we have a lot of project management information systems. And actually, we are working with scheduling programs like Primavera, like Synchro, as well as the cost management programs like Unifier and Oracle as well. So what we were thinking to have a data warehouse, which all of these things already embedded within data warehouse, and we are integrating the as a contract life cycle management platform, as Dr. Tan mentioned, with these data. So everything will be there. So once we have a claim and once we have anything that it's already from our side or the other side, we can see all the analytics and data analytics. We can go to the archive. We can check the history, and we can understand all of these data without going there and here. So no need to ask and bring QS to sit beside me. No need to bring the planner and make him sit beside me. All the information will be there. And also, another thing about the intelligence of the contract intelligence, it's saving time. So let's say right now I'm a huge developer, which is working in Middle East, and I have a lot of developments here and there. So you know that the contract is specific for each project. And then it will take me a lot of time in order to put the entitlements, obligations, terms and conditions. But in the intelligence phase, I'll have like a repository that collects all of these data and all of these contracts in one platform or in one data warehouse, and I'll employ a machine learning algorithm in which it will help me to set up a contract in a right way. Actually, also, this machine learning, it will be like a training methodology. I'll give this machine learning algorithm or the data model algorithm to learn about my contracts, about my history, and about what I need in the future as a business plan. And directly, it will product an integrated contract with all of other systems and project management information systems, in which it will save time and a lot of effort when it came to the claims and entitlements. So it's a very good thing to have the business intelligence integration with the contract management.
Thank you, Engineer Ahmed, and thank you, Professor Ernesto, for the intro. I'm Marwan Ababed, the Digital Transformation Lead for Turner International for Middle East Operations. And I am one of the members for Center of Excellence in Smart Construction. I am one of the co-authors for the National Smart Construction Guidelines for UAE government, and as well a board member for Society of Engineers of Digital Engineering Chapter. Now, just to touch back to Dr. Han's presentation and the concern raised by Professor Ernesto regarding the data security and feeding the right information to the platform system. I think this is a great, there's a great potential for emerging technologies such as blockchain, because one of the strengths for blockchain technology, it's for enabling the use of the single version of truth. And the good thing for the presented platform by Dr. Tan that it's cloud-based, and recently there are hybrid cloud computing platforms that are incorporating blockchain technologies such as AWS. They recently launched a blockchain process flow. So I think that will address the security concern because it's a trusted source for information, reliable, and the strength of the blockchain that stakeholders, they can add new information, but nobody, even the system admin, nobody can manipulate the information which already been added. So this is giving the strength and support to the online contract management platform, which is definitely one of the best solutions I have seen so far for the enhancing the collaboration between various stakeholders and establishes the base for data tracking and monitoring and controlling for the contractual issues, which is in the normal way, conventional method. It's consuming lots of time just to dig down and find deeply the information and data. The other thing is that blockchain will provide the confidence for different stakeholders because it eliminates the lack of trust, actually. It's providing the single source of truth, and consequently, it's establishing the platform for what's so-called smart contracts applications. And that's where a special trigger occurs on project and then an automated procedure with a certain agreed actions by different stakeholders, making an automated function to activate a certain action in the smart contract. So I believe that interlinking the blockchain to the cloud-based commercial management platform, that will definitely add the strength to the setup.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important topic, the one that how can we support on one side. You see, it was interesting to see emerging on one side the suggesting that we need artificial intelligence to be able to process this wealth of information and make sense out of it so that it can become more useful. And on the other hand, your suggestion that we might want, in order to trust the different contributions that we are putting together and in our contract management system, we might need to use a distributed ledger. But there are some questions in the chat already. Why should the distributed ledger, how does it actually support the emergent property of trust? I mean, why is the blockchain actually needed? Instead, for example, of a single trusted database. Would you mind to, Marwan, I would like to start with you, then we will move to the AI. Would you mind to clarify further this point? Why do we need a distributed ledger?
The reason is that the distributed ledger, the blockchain infrastructure, it's built in a way that makes it immune. And this is the reason, the driver, why blockchain is used for cryptocurrency. Because of the immunity it has. Even the IT administrator of the system, he cannot manipulate or change the existing data. Stakeholders, if a transaction agreed by different parties, which is called nodes among the ledger itself, and then the new block generated and added to the previous information. And nobody can change that. It became as a factual. While in the current IT systems, unfortunately, depends on the IT administrator privileges for access, there is a risk and there is a risk of data manipulation. and you are relying on your trust for a single entity. While in the distributed ledger, actually, you don't need to have full trust in single, you don't need to risk the trust of a single entity. This is the strength of the decentralized database in the blockchain.
I don't want now to go, further discuss this point too soon, but I can tell you that nobody, some people are not really entirely satisfied because they, I believe correctly, point to the need of having the sound implementation of the blockchain in order to avoid the type of theft and, let's say, vulnerabilities that have emerged in the implementation. So even if the concept is sound and using blockchain is sound, well, here we are talking contracts that are worth maybe millions of dollars. We need to make sure that the implementation is also done right to avoid the theft and information leakages. So I just want to mention this. It's an important point. It was raised in a question in the chat. So thank you, Richard, for raising it. But I would like to go back for a second to the Ahmed and the AI. We understood the richness, the informative richness of the systems that we have today, also from the initial presentation. And I think that you sort of intrigued us with the notion that we may need AI, as opposed to traditional algorithmic functionalities that can be inserted in the systems. So could you please highlight which function you think could be supported by AI in the next generation of this type of system? Where is AI going to step in first?
Okay.
Ahmed, are you there? Okay, thank you.
Mainly, I'll speak about the data, because the contract is a wealthy place of data. So when it came to the cost, times, and even level of productivities for different consultants and contractors, it's very difficult for one guy or even 10 guys, which is sitting in the same room, to understand all of this data. So it's very important that these parameters to be included from the first day in the contract management and to be integrated with different project management information system. That's why the algorithm will work perfectly when it came to managing these data, because when it came to the interpretations of the contract itself, I'm talking about the written, the write-up of the contract. I'm not talking about numbers or cost. It's very difficult. I think it will take the AI algorithm a lot of time to understand these different interpretations. So when I was speaking about the AI integration, I was speaking about the data itself, which at the end of the day, it will give us the overview about what will be in need. We will need 1 million or we will need 10 millions. We need 1 month or we need 10 months. So it's very important to have these parameters from the first day integrated in the contract with different project management information systems in one single data warehouse in which we can integrate the blockchain and all of these things in order to work in the same environment. I think, yes, we are speaking here theoretically, but practically it happened. It happened in some of projects. And actually, one of the project is Dr. Marwan's one. He already did it and implemented with help of some solution providers when it came to the blockchain. So, of course, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of effort. It needs unsleepy nights in order to achieve this. But once we have this in ground, it will omit a lot of disputes, a lot of RFIs, a lot of things when it came to the contract management. I need just to add the last thing. We need an open source of data for contractors and consultants. So let's say I'm putting myself in the shoes of developer, owner, government. And right now I'm recruiting or bringing contractors and consultants to work in my contract. And actually sometimes I'm deceived with their profile and with their marketing and portfolios and social media and whatever they are executing in Middle East right now. So I need the open source that is collected from different governments and different developers and owners in one single source in order to check their trends, to check every single aspect on their contract management when it came to contractor and consultant. This will give me an overview about how I manage the contract. If their KPI is 100 or it's 50, it's totally different. It's and it will give you a different inception about how you will deal with this contract. So I think an open source of historical data of contractors and consultants, it will be a great addition to the contract management.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for the last couple of questions that emerged in the chat, but I see our coordinator coming up, so maybe we are out of time. Please tell us.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
I would like. Yeah. I want to understand whether we have time for the last two questions in the chat, or should we move?
Well, you could answer. We could answer the last two questions, or you might want to just give a summary of the kind of discussions that we've had.
I will try to ask a telegraphic answers to these two questions. These two questions are mostly about feasibility. So basically, do we need to throw everything we have now away in order to introduce this new generation of capabilities, and how expensive will it be, assuming that we need to do it? So I would like to hear from our panelists just a very quick opinion on this. Are we facing a changing generation, and how much will it cost to the industry, this generation change?
Dr. Marwan, you need to answer, or shall I answer?
Who starts? Ahmed, you want to start? Marwan, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, I'll just give you a small example about if it's expensive or no. Let's say I purchased two ACs. One AC with $100 and another AC with $1,000. And I started to put it in my project. And then this $100 AC, I start to have a lot of maintenance issues, a lot of operations, high usage, and a lot of bills and consumption. So in 3 years, with this $100 USD dollar AC, I consumed a lot of money and a lot of time, a lot of effort bringing the maintenance guys in order to do it. So the total, I'm talking about the upfront cost and payback cost, the total will be like $5,000. So in comparable with the other AC, which is $1,000, I didn't have any issues when it came to operation and maintenance for 10 years or 5 years, as well as the bills, it was more than fine. So reflect the same on our construction industry. You have some investment. And sorry, Dr. Marwan, you need to say something.
No, just I agree with you. And maybe I have, I will rephrase it in a different way. I believe we are lucky that we are living these days in the industry 4.0, where it became this technological disruptions became more and more affordable these days. A few years ago, the cloud computing and blockchain and artificial intelligence, just like 4 or 5 years ago, it was like science fiction, and now it became, there are free open source platforms for artificial intelligence engines. Blockchain became very affordable. So I think if something might seem not feasible for the ROI in the short term, but definitely within few months, I think the technology evolves rapidly that it's became more and more affordable every day.
Thank you very much. Now I jump in if you want to, because we have just the last couple of minutes, and I would like to thank our panelists. Try to summarize a little bit. We had a very presentation at the beginning. I would like also to thank Dr. Haichen Tan from the Edward University of Malaysia. We understood what these systems are. What are the potential of these systems, of this new generation of contractual management system, and this helped us to start the panel with the right foot. And then we added these two interesting points that our panelists raised. One is, the opportunity of business intelligence, of information management that the systems will offer, and AI, the role of AI in it. And secondly, the possibility of these systems to rely on collective consensus-based trust rather than authority-based trust, thanks to the use of blockchain. And I would like to add a personal note here, as I was a member of the committee of experts for the Italian government, which had to select the use cases for blockchain. And the first one I pushed is construction industry. I told them there are three major use cases: construction industry, and construction industry again. And this is even more true in the case of the places like here, the UAE, where the construction and service industry are all in one together. So you have this large community that is needs to build up a trust based on consensus. You can't really do all this one-on-one type of contractual management. So I think that we got at the situation that we are close to a change, and this change is happening. Will have its costs, but I think our panelists sort of helped us to see it without fear, because the opportunity, in my opinion at least, I take this out of the panelists' views, that the opportunity is greater than the cost. We will have a cost, but we will have also big opportunities in front of us. So this is my summary. I don't know if any of the panelists want to add the final word.
I want to add one final 1 minute statement. Further to Ahmed's elaboration about the importance for artificial intelligence for data segregation and use the power of artificial intelligence. According to IBM studies, they are showing by year 2025, 80% of the world data will be unstructured data. So there's a lot of data and information. There's a lot of things happening in the construction sector. And we believe managing the data itself through artificial intelligence, that's definitely will empower the ultimate directions toward the improvements and destruction of construction technology. Again, according to IBM studies showing that only 5% of data reach to decision maker, which will affect changes and decisions to the by decision makers in any organization. So again, managing data, it's a big mine where there is a lot of opportunity. Handling, segregating, structuring that data, and using it in a useful manner. This is the key golden trigger.
Thank you, Marwan. I want to give Ahmed the opportunity to use 30 seconds as well. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'll quote two quotes from two of major businessmen in the world, which is Jeff Bezos and I forget his name, Tesla guy. One said that data is the new oil, right? And one said who owns data is owning the world right now. So it's all about the data. And once you own the data, you will own the world. The second quote that I'm always saying to all people right now, either you transform freely or you will be obliged to be transformed. So try to take the leap and transform now.
Thank you very much. I think these are the right words to close our panel. We'd like to thank both panelists, Dr. Aichantan for his presentation. And of course, it was really a privilege to be moderating this panel this afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And of course, the audience for their questions and the comments. Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Windu, you are muted. Dr. Windu, you are muted.
Thanks. Sorry. Right. I'd just like to reiterate Professor Ernesto's thanks and gratitude to all our speakers for this evening for such an interesting discussion. And I'd also like to thank the audience for their active participation. So our next webinar is titled Nature-Based Solutions as Climate Action Strategies in the Built Environment. And more details of this webinar will be communicated to you in due course. So that concludes today's program. You may now disconnect. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.